Come on, it's 1 minute. Calm down. Trying to get it all worked out. I am trying to do a live on TikTok tonight as well, because a lot of my shorts do really good over there. So, trying to keep the followers there interested as well. And got the YouTube going. I'm not late, dude. I don't know. It was 1 minute. You'll be fine. You better stick around. I've got your notes to go over on the solar stuff here, John. Hey, Williams. Thanks for chiming in, man. Let me know if you can hear me, and we'll get the show on the road. And if you can't, then I'll set up a mic. So, see how we can get this going. Ah, mio mio. Co-host. All right, so we'll let people get on, and we'll kind of see how this goes. I'm going to go over sizing some of the solar system. Oh, Raven's here. Right on. I was texting him earlier. So, cool. I don't know, why can't I see him? Oh, sorry, dude. You were up farther, and I overlooked it. Sorry, Raven. Alright. Got it. Dude, it has been busy. It has been really busy. And I have begun... hey, if you're over on the TikTok side, let me know if you can hear me and how all that's working. Please. And if not, maybe I'll bring that closer. Maybe it was too far away. We'll try that. Okay, so... yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks trying to get things lined out. And last week I took off for family and spend some time with them and hang out. And yeah, so now, all right, right on. Good deal. Thanks, Williams. Thanks, John, for letting me know that Raven was here. Okay. Trying to watch both of these is distracting. Okay, so I'm going to go over sizing some of the solar systems, because that is like super common question. In fact, I was asked again this week how much it costs to go to put your house on solar. I'm going to move these phones closer together. Y'all bear with me here. And that way when I look over here, maybe, I end up catching both of them. Okay, so get asked, like I did this week, about whether solar is worth going to and how much it costs and all of that. And so we're going to go over sizing some of that, both for an off-grid application as well as maybe a grid-tied application, whether you want it as a backup generator or like that side of things, or if you want it, if you're wanting to run like the entire homestead off of it. So we're going to go over that this evening, and then feel free to ask questions. And hey, Tony, nice to see you, dude. I'm not even going to try your last name. You already told me I butchered it. So, so go over some of the sizing on the solar, and have a chance to be able to answer questions there if you have any. You know, disclaimer, there's people that know far more than I about solar. I'm just out here kind of limping along through life and trying to figure it out, right? So, but there is a lot that I have learned over the last 12 years of messing with the solar. So that is where I will share my knowledge and expertise, and if it helps you, right on. And yeah, we'll go over that. And now the pup wants to come join. What's up, 2-0? All right, You're not going to be able to do like the heavy breathing right here, or you're going to be tripping out the camera or the audio. The dogs all like freak out when the storms are starting. They start panting and tripping out. So 2-0 is over here with me this evening. Okay, so if you have questions, don't hesitate to put them down below, and I'll kind of get going on some of this. So some of you all have seen the off-grid cabins, thanks dude, that I'm building and have built, and you see that I'm running a lot of those with the Jackeries. And I started this first one, the first fully off-grid cabin that I did, I started off with the Jackery 5000 Plus because I thought that is what was going to be required to run things in there. Well, the only the pro to the 5000 Plus is that you can put a lot more solar input to it, which is really handy. And that's something that you need to consider as your PV input with all of this. But as you are working on sizing this stuff, if you're trying to find a way to run your entire house, yeah, I've got your notes, John, and I'm going to touch on that. I'm going to kind of do an overview here. If you're trying to find a way to run your entire house, your best bet is to get your electric bill and find out what your daily usage is, and then kind of work it backwards from there. When I started sizing out my system here on the homestead, we were using around 50 kilowatts a day. Now I've added buildings, added a walk-in cooler and things like that, and so our usage has increased from that. But that's kind of how I sized my system. So for simplicity, we started off with 50 kilowatts. That's our usage. And then what I did is I went and sized my solar panels to just over 15 kilowatts. And now the reason that my solar panels are only about a quarter of what I actually need, or slightly under a third, is I'm accounting for 4 hours of peak sunlight, where I'm gonna, that 15,000 watts, 15 kilowatts of solar panels is going to produce me 60 kilowatts of power in that peak 4 hours of sunlight. So call that, just for simplicity, call that like 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that will that'll kind of recharge my batteries and give me some time to that will give me some time to be able to recharge the batteries. Let me see where I'm going here with all this, and also be able to run appliances and stuff. And then you'll have your shoulder, like your, let's say 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. you're gonna have solar input, but it's not going to be anywhere near 15 kilowatt. Like on mine, it might be, I might be bringing in like 3 kilowatts in those hours. So nowhere near the peak of, 15. Then you're going to have your shoulder, where you're going to go from like 3 p.m. to dusk, where you're also going to be bringing in about 6 or so kilowatts on my system anyways. So that main block of panel production there from 11 to 3 is when you're going to recharge your batteries and really be able to run your homestead. Now, with all that being said, let me check something here. Okay, with that being said, on the solar sizing, the next thing you need to put in consideration here is your battery storage, or your storage of the power. And really, and for right this second, I'm talking about a whole home system, not talking about just an off-grid build or a small cabin. I'm talking like a a large 2,000 square foot home or whatever, what have you, 1,500. Okay, so you need your battery storage. You need to account for that on how long do you want your batteries to last you without any solar input. So what that could look like, if I'm using 50 kilowatts a day, for just round numbers, and I want to be able to run off my solar system for 24 hours without any solar input, without any generator input, without any grid power input, means that I'm going to need a minimum, like bare minimum, of 50 kilowatts of battery storage. Ideally, you're going to be somewhere around, probably 60 kilowatts. That way you've got a little bit of reserve and you're not running your batteries all the way down. More is better. The less you cycle those lithium batteries, the longer they'll last. So, if any of this isn't making sense, drop a comment and I will do my best to answer that. But if you, another way on sizing the batteries, or just, another example here is if you are trying to run 2 days without input, you want to double whatever your kilowatts usage is. So if you're using 50 kilowatts a day, now you want 100 kilowatts in storage in order to be able to go 48 hours without any input, okay? So that kind of should put you all on the same page there. Let's think here, where I want to go from here. When you're sizing your inverters, I'm running into a problem right this moment when I am trying to run the entire homestead off of the solar inverters that I have. My problem right now is that I'm running my walk-in cooler this week because we just picked up a half a steer and I got a bunch of dog bones, and those are all in boxes in the walk-in cooler. So I'm running the walk-in cooler. I've added equipment to my office, and so the usage in there is far higher. And I'm pretty sure the soft start is going out in my AC unit for the house. So with all of those things together, I am using more power than my inverters can put out. So I'm very intermittently able to use my inverters. Oh, also I've got a little, it's a 110 volt, but I do have a little hot tub going as well. So last month was super wet, rainy, and let me bring this around some. It was super wet and rainy, and I wasn't able to run the homestead off of the solar the whole time. However, I was able to run it enough to bring down my electric bill by just over a third. So even with the few days that I was able to run, it did cut down on my electric bill quite a bit. So this month it's not looking as great because of the issues that I'm running into. I need to order another soft start for the air conditioner and try to get things going there. But it has been super busy. It may not look like it. I know there's not been a lot of content put out. In fact, it's been too long since I put out content, aside from shorts, but a full length. So I will work on that. Sorry. Just last week I didn't get anything done, and this week I've gotten a lot done, but it just has not been filming. So working on bringing in some help, and that is going well. If possible, double the size of the system you need when planning a new system. So basically, if possible, double the size of the system you need when planning a new system. You can do that, Williams. The other thing is, a lot of this is scalable. Even my inverters are scalable. I can add more. I can add another inverter, and it would be able to carry this load. It's just time and money. So I'm working on it, but it just doesn't happen overnight. So you don't have to double it, but what you what you should do is make sure that you can scale everything. Panels are easy to scale. I've discussed some of that where I am talking about putting this. I bought a tracker the other day to put some panels on, and I think I've got an issue with an inverter, and I just have not had time to call Signature Solar and get this worked out. I keep throwing an error code 19 on my EG4 6500 XP. And so I need to reach out to them because if I'm reading things right, it could either be a PV voltage over voltage, which would be super weird because we've been running off of these panels for, I don't know, 2 years now. Or it's something to do with AC input, and I have no AC input going into this. So, if I get my house under contract, I'm going to hit up Bob to view your property for sale. Gotta sell to move on. Yeah, Glimmerman, I don't know where you're located at, but just reach out. That property is under contract right now. So, but I'm fixing to start other projects. So just reach out and we'll figure it out. Williams, okay, there's a Google solar field east to me. Occasionally I'll see used panels for sale. Yeah, Williams, I've not had any problem with the used panels. And in fact, the panels that I'm using now, I bought like 6 or 7 years ago. And they were left over from one of these government projects or, I'll close this. Left over from one of the government projects for installing a solar field. And they were all new panels, but I got them at that time half price. And now, yet again, panels are half the price of what I paid for those. But that's just the way things go. So, yeah. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of a rundown on how I size the system for my house. And that's why it's really difficult when folks are like, well, how much does it cost to put on solar? Like, are you going to try and run heating elements like a hot tub in the middle of the night? Because then it's going to use quite a bit more solar. I put my hot tub on a timer, so it shuts off in the evening, and then it kicks back on at like 8 in the morning. It just takes that takes quite a bit of load off. I wait until my solar is producing again the next morning before I go back to running the hot tub and trying to get it heated up. Thank you, Glimmerman. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. Everything looks good, and we'll just see how it goes, and that way we can get on to the next projects. I try to not get so overburdened with this stuff. I don't know how else to word it, but I'm looking forward to getting started with the other projects. And yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to mislead you and be like, "Oh yeah, let me know." I mean, I'd love to build a cabin that worked out for you, but anyways, however that works out. Okay, so John did make some notes. I'm going to go over some of them. And hey, Raven, put the name of that app you sent me today in the comments, please, because my phone is tied up and I'm not able to view that. And I don't want to misspeak. So if you could put that in there, and that way I can remember to talk about that, please. All right, so John, he's got some notes here. I'm going to kind of skim over and see what we've got going. And something in here just made me think of it. I had a comment this last week about Lightning taking out their solar systems, their house, or whatever. Let me tell you, if you go to my link tree, I think it should be in there. If not, it will be in there soon. There will be a link to EMP Shield. Before you get all twisted on whether EMP is a thing or not, hear me out. They come with a $25,000 Lightning insurance policy. I have EMP Shield on my house, my main panel at my house, and I have it on some of my solar stuff. I need to get a few more units. You can also buy these for your vehicle, you know, your heavy equipment, all of that. So, hey, calm down, Williams. I've got a discount code for EMP Shield too, dude. Jeez. That's why I was saying about my affiliate link down below. But I've been using the EMP Shield for, shucks, I don't know, several years. 6, maybe. Maybe it's been on my house about 6. The fact that it comes with the lightning insurance policy for the money is worth it to me. It's for me, it's redundancy, just in case my homeowner's insurance doesn't kick in for lightning damage or whatever. I've got EMP Shield to fall back on, so that's why I use them. If it helps with an EMP and some of my stuff still works after that, if that day ever comes, rock on. It sure does look sketch in the world at times, but hard to say whether that's a reality. I'm not going to get into too much of that. A lot of you know my kind of mindset on that. Whatever. I don't think it hurts. I'll leave it like that, right? Okay, so lightning insurance, outside of your homeowner's insurance, I think it's worth looking into EMP Shield. In my heavy equipment days, I had clients that had equipment that got hit by lightning. Sometimes insurance kicked in, and sometimes they didn't have insurance. And when they didn't, it was a very expensive repair. ECMs are like $1,500 plus a piece. Most machines have multiple ECMs on them. You know, like on dozers, we would have a transmission ECM, engine ECM, and a cab ECM, sometimes a monitor ECM. So there could be 3 or 4 ECMs in there, and that would all get wiped out by lightning strike. So, all right, that's the end of that. If you got questions about any lightning protection stuff that I can help with, I will. Hey, the mosquitoes are bad, and I'm going to grab my Thermacell. So bear with me a moment. All right, I'm back. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, Sturdiak. I watched a video recently on the cabin with the solar that connects to the Jackery battery that powers the panel. How do you get Wi-Fi in an area like that? Would you advise Starlink or something? Starlink, 100%. On that particular cabin, the cell phone service is pretty good, but highly recommend the Starlink. I keep a Mini on the truck with me, and it does great, even driving up and down the highway or whatever. But yeah, Starlink all the way. That's what runs the homestead, and then I added that Mini, and I keep that with me as well. So, yep, no issues with the internet there, like that. Okay, so on, like, one of the questions he's got is, does over paneling work, and what are the pros and cons? Here's how I look at over paneling. I think it's a pro. and I'll tell you why. I don't believe I've tested one panel yet, and I mean, I can think of probably, 8 different brands of panels I've tested. Okay, and I'm talking like big names and no names. I over panel because on average I see about 80% production. So a 100-watt panel puts out about 80 watts. 300-watt panel produces about 240. So I oversize my panels because of that. I have not had an issue with them ever kicking in. Now, I may not oversize it as though it's directly 80%, but I might oversize it, say, base the panel wattage off of like 85 to 90%, something like that. So keep that in mind. That's kind of how I do things. Your results may vary. John, had a meeting with the insurance agent today, face-to-face, and solar is not on the list. Tiny house, etc. Thus, the company is not off-grid minded, so only the gridded house is covered with the standard coverage. For those of you that don't know, John has an off-grid dry cabin as well as a grid-tied cabin. I don't know if you could insure the off-grid house as like an outbuilding or how that would work. I know I've had to kind of piddle with some of that, but I've also added policies for some of my outbuildings. I'm looking over some notes here. Looking over some notes. Yeah. Okay, so so John's got his system. It's sized a little bit smaller than mine, but to the best of my knowledge, maybe I'm not misspeaking, he is one person living by himself, and I have got a family of 5 and all of the business and everything else here. So, but John's example here is like he's got a dry cabin, is what he calls it, and basically that's his off-grid cabin. He's got an 800-watt solar array. He's storing 5,000 watts or 5 kilowatts of battery, and then he's got a 1,000-watt inverter, and he's using this to run 4 overhead lights. I don't know if those are LED or halogen bulbs, but and then a 1-burner electric countertop stove eye. So just think of like a single burner stove. And he charges his Ryobi batteries off it. I will say, if you get into a brand on the power tools, like whatever, Ryobi, Milwaukee, DeWalt, whatever your flavor is, you can get a lot of things that will run off of those. Fans, radios, extra lights. I mean, other than just your work tools, right? I mean, you can get little inverters that run off those batteries. I just ordered a deal today to be able to run my Starlink Mini off of a Milwaukee battery. So, when you decide to get into the power tool game, choose one brand and stick with it, and then buy everything to kind of fit those batteries. So, I think it looks like John has also got his grid-tied property. And I don't know if I think it's his solar array is not built yet. So it sounds like he's using AC power, grid power, to store some power there. And I'll get into that in just a second. But he's looking to put in like a 2.1 or 2100 watt solar array there. He's keeping 10,000 watts in storage, or 10 kilowatts of battery storage. He has a 2.5 kilowatt, 2500 watt inverter coming off of that, and that is powered basically his inverter, and his storage is the Mega 2 OOPS with 4 of the auxiliary batteries. So that Mega 2 Oops is very similar in nature to a Bluetti, to Jackery, to, let me think of some other brands. Shucks, I don't know. You've got the gist of it. So same concept, especially with the Jackery, where you can buy auxiliary batteries and you can link them together. So yeah, a HF radio that runs off those kinds of batteries would be interesting. More research indicated. Yeah, I don't think it'd be very difficult, because you'd have to have a step down converter to run HF, I think. Because the batteries are going to put out like 18 volts and you're going to need like 13 for your radio. So something to look at. Okay, one of the apps that I was talking about, or wanted mentioned that I skipped over accidentally, was Flock Hopper. If you are freedom-minded and you are into the whole, or not into the whole surveillance state, and the constant tracking that we are under, as we are all on here on our smartphones having a conversation. Flock Hopper is an app that was sent to me today. I have not used it extensively, but what I did find is that it uses Google Maps, and it will give you 2 routes. One where you don't care about what cameras you drive through, and one where you do. It'll be like a privacy route. So it will notify you of all the cameras in that area and give you a second route to be able to drive around those cameras if you are not into being recorded all the time. So, Flock Hopper. When I looked it up, it said it was only for iPhone, but it is in fact on Android, because that is what I downloaded it onto today. No affiliate link, nothing like that. It's a free app, or at least today it is. And yeah, so Flock Hopper, if you are driving a lot and need a private way to be able to do that. I'm curious how that's going to add time on long trips. I'm going to look at that. What was odd is a lot of the Flock cameras that I saw today, they were not on the highway. They were off on side streets that I was actually going to drive down. But anyways. There's a site called DFlock. Yeah, DFlock is a deal. That's a thing. I feel like I gotta be careful about what I say, because I'm trying to keep my platform. But yeah, there's DFlock as well. And you can look that up yourself. How about that? Okay. So back to John's notes that he sent me, because he kind of helped orchestrate this. Williams, I saw something about that on unmarked police cars as well. Well, Raven, you're not late because you were here already, and Williams picked up the slack because I had sent that app to him today as well. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Catching back up on notes. Okay. John is looking to install just over a 2 kilowatt solar array. He keeps 10 kilowatts of battery storage. This is his grid-tied property, and has a 2500 watt inverter powered by the Mega 2 Oops. He is looking to mainly power his 2-burner electric countertop range, maybe use it as a charging station, and this is primarily for power outages. So mainly intended for winter storms, and if he has to, he'll use it for the refrigerator in the kitchen. His plan is to build 3 800 watt arrays, and this is something I kind of wish I had done, and kind of also think about adding or changing with my system. And what he is looking to do is do 3 800 watt arrays and place each in a bowl shape to get the east and west evening and midday. So what that would look like is something like this, where he'd have one facing west, one facing south, and one facing east. Not at such a severe angle as my hand is showing here, but at a slight angle where he is picking up at various points in the day. A good representation of this that I have seen is Off Grid with Curtis Stone has done this exact setup in Canada, where he's at, and where he has built a totally off-grid homestead. So if you want to see a description of that, go to his channel. He doesn't post very often anymore, but I know that he has some over the solar arrays in the past. So that is an option. I am kind of looking to do something almost like, I don't know. I'm thinking about, like, I have my south-facing panels, right? And I'm thinking about coming off at a little bit of an angle, like this, and facing west, and then coming off the other side and facing east. But I'm also toying around with just using a tracker and seeing if that doesn't pick up what I need. So still playing around with things on my end and trying to see how they go. And time is the primary reason that's not done. So read over some more of his notes here. I'm still here. There's a tracker for solar not too far from big system on a residential from me. On a residential. Oh yeah, so I just picked one up the other day. It's made by EcoWorthy. I have not. They were running their deal on Prime, so I have it. I just haven't had time to put it together yet. It's on my to-do list. Okay. So John has kind of sized his battery storage to, I'm curious what his kilowatt usage is each day. But he has sized his battery backup here for his grid-tied property to get him through like 2.5 to 5 hours, which is his normal power outage. So his issue is heating and cooling on the gridded property with no power. He has a little buddy heater for winter, but it would only heat like a bedroom. Install a window unit. Would love a mini split that runs on solar, and they do make them now. In fact, one uses 110 volt when the panels are lacking as a 3-prong plug. I haven't seen the one that's a plug. I don't know. John, on this solar powered mini split, for the price, I can just get a normal mini split and like a 110 volt mini split and just run it off of an inverter. So personally, I don't see the markup for the EG4 solar powered mini split. That's just me. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah, so John's kind of like, a lot of our videos and time together, we'll kind of get on the topic of the SHTF, but his thoughts are, I really think we're already living the SHTF every day of our lives at our own respective ground zero. We have to find the solutions that work best for us, and that's what we're doing. Glimmerman, there's nothing wrong with a basic window unit. They are effective, but I would get one of the inverter style units. The one that I've been using or have used some is this LG Clearview. Super low energy consumption, and it does a really good job. Very quiet too, and runs off the solar systems really well. In fact, there's a cabin just down the road that has 2 of them in there. I did not build the cabin, but I did install those systems and or those those AC units, and they've done really good down there. And I did, excuse me, I did put them in one of my cabins as well. The only reason I started doing the mini splits, even though it's significantly more work, is the heating aspect of it, you know. But throwing a window unit in is certainly certainly has a place, I think. So yeah, like this is all, you know, if you're still grid tied, especially if you're like renting or something like that, or you're not at your forever home, I wouldn't get too carried away with hooking up wiring and whatnot. But I would seriously look into these solar generators. Jackery is great. I'd be happy if you want to email me. I'd be happy to like walk you through some of this. I like Jackery because their price point per kilowatt works out really well. They have good customer service, and there is a variety of solar input options and other options with them. They got the app and all that. There are other brands out there, and I'm not here to debate whether they are or not. Aside from me getting an affiliate kickback if you purchase through Amazon, Jackery, aside from that, I have no affiliation with them. They don't send me anything. In fact, I tried to work out a deal with them, and it was like, well, I can actually get the units cheaper off of Amazon than it would be to set up as a dealer through them. So, but I do think if you're looking for like some backup power, we kind of haven't talked about this yet, but if you were trying to run like, you got to put in perspective what you really need to run in a grid, in a total grid down scenario. You know, you're probably not needing to run, you're probably not needing to run, you know, 5 bedrooms worth of lights. You can probably cut down to like 1 bedroom and a kitchen, maybe, right? It would be a good idea to be cooking with gas instead of cooking with electric. So there are numerous ways where you could get your energy usage down. And then think about that. Think about when the power's out, what do I really need to run? What am I really looking to run? And then go through and add up the wattage of those components. You need your fridge to run, right? So there's, you know, whatever, I'm picking a random number. There's 150, call it, it's going to idle at 50 watts. I'm just kind of pulling a number here. And let's say when the compressor kicks on, it's going to pull 300 watts, right? So let's say, okay, we need to be able to run, you know, the fridge. That's a 300 watt system, you know. So now we know that we need to size the battery bank and the inverter system off of that. Go through how many light bulbs do we really need on, you know, okay, we're going to use 5 light bulbs. They're LED lights, so let's say they're pulling 10 watts a piece, so there's another 50 watts. Okay, now we're up to 350. Work it like that, and you'll see how small of a backup system you can get by with and how beneficial it could be. And then you can add from there. If you know, if you pull up those numbers and you're like, hey, this is like super within budget, you know, I can buy that inverter. I could max out the PV input for it, and I could max out the PV input and still have money left over. Well, then you could look at, all right, well, what about adding a battery to it? You know, an auxiliary battery. Where does that put you? Or is it, if you're still like, oh, I got plenty of money for that, then size the system up accordingly. But don't feel like you need to jump in with a $10,000 system. Like there's a multitude of options. PV input is cheap. It's down to about 25 cents a watt, give or take. You might pay a little bit more, but it's something like that. So let's just say that the system that you buy accepts up to 1,000 watts of power of PV input. So you could buy 1,000 watts of solar panels for about $250, give or take, right? But that'll give you a general idea there. So don't, you know, just don't drain your bank account. Don't run a credit card tab, all of that to get this done. Just kind of piecemeal it together if you can. you know, like we were talking about, somebody mentioned, Williams, I think, about oversizing it. Well, you don't have to oversize it in the beginning. What you could do is just buy a system where you can plug in auxiliary batteries. You know, maybe don't buy a Jackery 1000. I don't remember what the cutoff is for auxiliary batteries, but don't buy a Jackery 1000 and not be able to hook up auxiliary batteries. Maybe get the Jackery 2000, where at least now you can hook in auxiliary batteries. You got to spare X amount of dollars, buy an extra battery and plug it in. But you got to weigh that out too, to what is the capability on your PV input. Or in a total grid down, do you have a small generator that you can run to help recharge these and back up the power? So I hope that wasn't terribly vague. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I should have been able to cover more of that, but let me catch up on the comments and then we'll go back into this if we need to. So I've been scheming a concept. This is by Raven. I've been scheming a concept of isolated batteries and panels for high power appliances instead of throwing it all in one bank, running a mini split or heat and cool system, isolated system. You can do that, but you're running into, I feel like you're running into a labor issue with doing that, Raven, and you're running into materials. And by materials, I mean like plug ends, plugs themselves, the wiring themselves. What do you need in order to make that work? And that is where you'll have to discover whether that does or doesn't make sense. You know, like just for a super vague example, it would not make sense to buy 3 Jackery 3600s to power multiple things across your house, because you're paying so much more for the inverter side of that and the charge controller side of that. It would be cheaper, you know, to buy 1 Jackery 3600 and then buy a battery at about 70% of the cost. I'm kind of shooting from the hip there, but about 70% of the cost of what the total unit costs to buy all over again. Now, if you're talking about doing a battery, like let's just say you got a 300 amp hour 12 volt battery and you want to hook an inverter up to that. Now, how are you going to charge that? Well, now you need a charge controller, okay? So let's just say you picked all that up cheap. Now you need a spot by these dedicated appliances to be able to store that. So now you're going to build a cabinet for each space to keep this out of sight, out of mind, and also to keep little ones from getting into it, or your pets or something like that from shorting out a cable because they bumped into something. So those are kind of things to kind of work out. But if you have something to add to that, leave it in the comments and I'll touch on it again. It's like running a legit power station as a UPS for office. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Raven. I think I do. Glimmerman, that's a bummer, dude. That's a chunk of money to have invested. And I thought Rock River, man, they were like some of the first on the game, or on the, you know, back in like, I'm trying to think when I started seeing them. When did that Clinton bill expire or get reduced? It was Clinton, wasn't it, that did the assault weapons ban? I think that's what they called it. Wasn't that back in like 06, 07 that they did away with that? And I remember family members picking up a Rock River as like, you know, an AR and bringing them in, and I thought they were decent at the time, but it might have been, but that's also in the time when Bushmaster, I think it was Bushmaster, isn't it? Remington? Oh man, they made some ugly ARs. Raven, LED and low power appliances too, as much as possible. Better if you have a smart system to control and augment when and how power is used. Yeah, the only kicker to the smart system is that could be controlled for you, right? But I get what you're saying. I'm just kind of teasing you there. Yeah, trying to keep your consumption down is definitely a thing. The smart controls, yeah, I like having controls like I was mentioning about using on the, just trying to see something. Like I was mentioning about using on the hot tub where it shuts off at midnight or whatever and then kicks back on at 8 in the morning. I'm all for programmable controls, so long as they can carry the amperage that you need and whatnot. Yeah, Williams, I thought you kind of were, and that's why I mentioned something like that. The careful with the milsurp generators, because some of those operate on a frequency that is not conducive to the United States frequency. So I don't remember what that number is. I'm not a generator guru, but I do know that that is a problem sometimes. So keep an eye out for that. I am in the middle of testing a big generator right now that is like a whole home generator, bigger than my welder, than my Miller Bobcat that I've got. And so pretty economically priced, I think. But I'm all for I'm just a fan of a gas generator myself. Simple, easy to get parts for, and things like that. A lot of those milsurp generators were used or built for overseas, or they're running on a different frequency here. So just be sure to check on that. And I'll leave it like that. But yeah, if you've watched my how to like tie in a backup generator video, that's something you can totally do in a rent house. You could move your, I don't know, I guess I should, I don't know. I think you could do it in a rent house because I did it in mine. How about that? You could run your power in through your dryer plug, and you could put your dryer breaker on a, if you have an electric dryer, right? You could put your dryer breaker on a, what the heck, on a generator lockout switch, and have it to be, no, that wouldn't work. Oh, golly, how would you do that? I mean, you could do it without that, but that's kind of not safe. I think you get where I'm going with that. I don't want to like give you a direction. In my rent house, we did not have a generator lockout. I'll leave it to you like that. We backfed through the dryer plug when the power went out. We just took extra precautions to make sure that the main was off, and that we were off out there at the meter as well, things like that. But there are options. Pace plan, your solar system is pretty much how I see it. Yep, you're right, Raven. What would you say me in the home office would need to run full time for our future setup? So, Raven, that's, I'd be curious to see what your current energy usage is, because that would be a good thing to go off of. And then let me think here. And I'm kind of giving you a hard time, but like, are the cat and the dog using electric in your house, or just you and her? You can, that's also where I needed to touch on. You can undersize some of this because you also have the option to use a backup generator to kind of recharge the system. And you might as well plan on you're going to have a generator. It's just how often you have to turn it on. But that's the reality of it. You're going to have a generator. It's just how often do you want to turn it on? And the square footage of your house that you're trying to heat and cool, and there's a whole bunch of things that go into that. Basically, I'm thinking a main power system and then auxiliary for other isolated items. Yeah, you can certainly do that. It's just you got to weigh out the cost of it and see if that's how you want to do it. Or if you want to oversize your main power system. You know, one of the reasons I did 2 of the EG4 6000 XPs versus one 12,000 XP was if one of them's having an issue, I could run off of the other. Yep, we're going to be running off of it in a limited sense. Not going to be able to run everything we would off of 2, but at least we'd have some power. So that's kind of how I looked at it, as having a little bit of redundancy there. It was the 94 AWB, ended in 05 with a sunset provision. Okay, yep, thanks, Raven. Like you've got quite the information there. If I was to move to Oklahoma, I would prefer a berm home or earthen to resist wind and tornadoes, possibly keep it thermally cool. Glimmerman, the Earthship homes are totally cool. There's some not very far from me. They're not for sale to the best of my knowledge, but I have certainly seen them. Where we are in the mountains, if you are planning on moving to the mountains, your risk of tornado is significantly lower than your risk in western Oklahoma or even in the flat parts of eastern Oklahoma. So, consider that. If you're going to be in the mountains, there's a reason I live in the mountains like I do, and one of those is to avoid the tornadoes. And yeah, it does help keep it thermally cool. You're not wrong there, but you've got other options on that too. You could insulate the house better than most folks do around here. You know, when I'm constructing, I'm kind of trying to be budget minded with some of this as well. So we're still using fiberglass insulation on a lot of the construction, except for the crawl space where we use closed salt spray foam. But my buildings here at my house are, I know the lighting's getting terrible. We're fixing to wrap it up, folks. My buildings here at my house are spray foamed, open cell spray foamed. And yeah, so you're a much more energy efficient that way with the spray foam. Like I've got 6 inches of spray foam in my house. The exterior walls were all framed with 2x6s, and then that cavity was filled. So you do have options. You could also look at ICF houses if you're looking to build. Finding the berm home or Earthship homes are really difficult to find. There's just not that many of them. Correct on frequency, something I could charge the batteries with efficiently in regards to fuel consumption. Yeah, Williams, I get what you're saying. You know, you kind of also, you can look at your fuel consumption on those bigger generators. If you keep it around 80% of their max output, you're going to use far less fuel to run it during that time too. So. Yeah, Raven. I get it. It would be sweet to live off an Atlas shelter. I don't know. How does that go? Can they repo it if your payments aren't due, or are they all cash up front? I'm kind of curious how that would work. Yeah, no tax assessor. Wouldn't that be something? Oh, we came by your property and couldn't see your house. Yeah, no kidding. It's because I didn't build one. You got like a little shed that's dropped on top of it that kind of covers the hatch. That'd be kind of interesting. But like you're saying, in Southeast, a lot of mountains. I mean, yeah, you can get tornadoes. Don't get it twisted, but it's just fewer and farther between. All right, the lighting is turning terrible. Sorry, guys. I've been investigating the plug route. The original 25-year-old 240-volt plug nearly burned the house down, completely melted it, and didn't check the breaker. Yeah, that's not cool, Williams. Freaking fire ants. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Glimmerman. Yep. Have land, be in the mountains. That's kind of where I'm going to hang out for now. And kind of do things that way. So, if y'all got any questions, leave them now. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap it up. And my family is coming home. And I've got plenty of things to do and visit with them. So, yeah, I don't know. Reach out to me, Glimmerman. You can send an email. And just remind me that I told you to reach out. And I'll try to keep you in touch of other builds or whatever that we've got coming up. Yeah, that'd be one way of hiding it, is to do something like that. I'm wrapping up. I'll be done in a couple minutes. So, I don't know. The Raven, the last time I was over there, the generator was still there, but I haven't. Man, I drove by your property, oh man, I guess 2 days ago, but I didn't even think about going up there and looking around or anything. I kind of feel like we've had so much going on. I wasn't looking to open another can of worms. All right, I think oh shucks. I think it's completely dark, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. If it's full of copperheads, well, I don't know. We'd have to do something other than just burn it. The copperheads will be everywhere then. All right, folks. I think I'm gonna wrap it up, call it a night, and see what else I can knock out, get done. I sure appreciate you all hanging out for a little while. Good conversation. Hopefully, learned a little bit. And hello, Millie, my. All right. I will catch up with y'all next time. Mountain Wizard out. See ya.